probably my son heard me say some choice words, and it was his response that came. It was his response after my choice words that really stopped me in my tracks. Welcome back to the Family Wealth Edge. Kristen, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful on a rainy day up here in Southern Ontario.
Mm.
There's a theme that's happening on our talks that the weather up here is probably not as nice as yours down in Southern Florida.
Well, we all choose where to live, Vincent, but I, as you know, lived in Detroit for half of my
Yeah.
life. So I know that springtime is a little rainy and comes with a lot of work associated with like springtime cleanup. So I do
Yes.
remember.
It's amazing how fast the seasons change, which reminds me of a story that happened to me. Actually, a real thing happened to me the other day, as my 8-year-old son and I were out in the backyard, just after the landscapers had come and cut landscaped our backyard. But there was a part of the backyard that wasn't cut well, some weeds growing, and probably my son heard me say some choice words, and it was his response that came. It was his response after my choice words that really stopped me in my tracks. So I said something to the point of, what am I paying these people for
Mm.
if they're not trimming the weeds? And his response was, well, we'll just call them back, we'll just pay them more, we'll just call them back to come and do the job again. And that and it kind of hit me. I went, I am not living my values enough with my 8-year-old, um, because I do value hard work and rolling your sleeves up. And it's a messaging that we give to our clients and our coaching calls. You got to take responsibility for your stuff. And here, my 8-year-old taught me a valuable lesson that day about hard work. So, needless to say, I fired the landscapers and I went out and bought a lawnmower and a weed whacker. And my 8-year-old son and I, Leo, who I adore, will now be cutting the grass with me every weekend so I can teach him, importantly, so he can see me actually do a different type of work. He sees me a lot on the computer. He knows I travel a lot for work, but I was missing that part, that labor part, with him, and I didn't like his response
Mm.
to not having to cut the grass. So even though we've been doing this work for a long time with families, message received,
Yeah.
young son, about
Yeah.
the values of hard work.
Well, I think you're probably going to both regret that because when you find yourself behind the lawnmower sweating this summer, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's part of you just being a superhero dad and being really mindful of these
Mm.
important lessons that are hidden inside of all of this. So, I'm curious to know from your standpoint, what was it about his response that signaled this is a value that I'm
Yeah.
missing the opportunity to teach?
Great question. In a, without sounding overly dramatic, I actually envisioned him like 25 years old,
Yeah.
going like, "Oh, something broke, and we'll just replace it,"
Mm.
versus the idea of having to take better care of your stuff. And I found, so it's been a pattern I've been recognizing in both my kids. Obviously, probably at the fault of myself and my wife with the parenting. A toy breaks or
Mhm.
something's not put away, and there's almost an expectation that somebody else will do it.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
but the one around hard work in the backyard, it just, I literally, I was like, I and pictured him as a young adult, and just expecting that someone else is going to do the job. That kind of triggered me,
Mhm.
going, I don't know if I like that pattern, so I'm
Yeah.
going to nip that one in the bud early.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is something that you talk a lot about, these teachable moments,
Mhm.
right? It's they're always coming up. Um, Take advantage of them versus
Yeah.
what is the ones that you use? Those big, broad conversations.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's not unlike the sex conversation, right? I feel like when we were kids, our parents were finally being taught, like, wow, maybe it's not ideal to have like that one big, horrifying conversation with your
Yeah.
kid about healthy sexuality. Maybe it's better to have this is, I don't know, 100 different conversations across
Mm.
a lifetime as things are coming up in life, current events or with friends or whatever, to be able to talk about these values as they're emerging in life. I feel like it's the same way for these wealth values. And kudos to you for having picked up on this really important one. And I don't know, I do feel like the whole like yard work is a really important place where the value of hard work can be seen and taught. I don't know. Is it the same for females? And no credit for this goes to me whatsoever. This is all on the wonderful Ryan Heaney, my husband, who did a great job of teaching our kids. You know, we had rental properties when the kids were younger, and he had them cleaning the pool and doing, you know, mowing the yard out with the weed whacker from a very young age. And so they definitely know what it is to be doing this work. And I do feel like it has taught them the value of hard work. And it's amazing how many people recognize it. Like
Yeah.
our youngest came home from the orthodontist and said, you know, he drives himself now, right? And said, well, the orthodontist said that he sees me out there mowing the lawn when he's driving by on his boat, and he can't believe, like, people here are like, I can't believe this kid is mowing his lawn, because it's like this rare thing now. It used to be more common, but it is rare. So you're like going against
Yeah.
the tide to do
You
this.
you are, and you know, I grew up in a factory, right? So the idea of working long hours, getting your hands dirty was never foreign to me. And here I am, to your point, taking that element away from my kids of getting your hands dirty and actually doing something. Uh, it was not lost on me.
Mm.
And I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to teach them. And we'll
Yeah.
see, maybe we should do a follow-up talk on how the first day
Yeah.
goes.
I feel like we should give it like 10 years before we check back in on this, because and that's the thing. That's why I give my husband credit, because I could easily, I more easily than him will fall victim to the crabbing and complaining, being like, this lesson is not worth teaching because of the
Yes.
torture you have to go through to teach it. But he recognizes the value of this. And so he's really been resilient to all of that. And it is so important. But you had to be intentional, and kudos to you for doing this, because when you can pay for it and save yourself as the parent the torture of whatever lawn maintenance requires, it's really hard to make the choice to not. Like, if you can, if you can say yes to everything, how and when do you say no?
Yes.
And to isolate these times when it's really important for a purpose,
Yeah.
to do things differently is hard.
I just got off a call this morning coaching with a family, mid-20 kids, and we were talking about the idea of positive and negative consequences, right? And they were surprised by the notion of positive consequences. And here's an example that Ryan, our dear friend Ryan, instilled in your boys years ago. And with my son, the negative consequence in that moment was, are you serious, Dad? Like, I'm not gonna. So you get the crabby
You're like,
moaning
I'm
part of it.
hot. This is hard. Yeah.
He actually said to me, "I've never seen you cut the grass." I'm like, "We're changing." Next Saturday, that's going to be a change.
Mhm.
But the positive consequence of this, of this decision that I've made for him, and the little one will follow suit in a few years, is that down the road, to your point, there will be a lesson and hopefully some work ethic instilled in him.
Mhm.
And you get to see, there's something about working with your hands
Mhm.
that you do something and then you see the result of it. So that's what my experience. So I think, to kind of summarize this quick chat, Kristen, teachable moments, it's embracing them for parents and for our rising gen. Look for those teachable moments. Don't miss them. And for mums and dads, Kristen, it's what you said about taking those big conversations and breaking them down, micro conversations, having more instead of just waiting for that. You use the example of, now I got a boyfriend, now what do I do?
Mhm. Mhm.
Versus instilling values over time.
Yeah.
And then I think even that notion too of the positive and negative consequences of some of the decisions that we're making with our families.
Yeah. Sometimes you could have taken the easy path, Vincent, and said, I'll call those people back. I don't want to get into this. But sometimes taking the hard path is really the journey to the wealth values that you're trying to instill in your people.
And I love that messaging that you've carried forward. I think the easy part for some of our families is to write that check. It's easy.
Mhm.
It's the taking a moment and going, what is the teachable moment here, and taking the path less mode we'll use, taking the lawn less mode. So thank you for
I love
listening.
it.
We'll see you soon.